Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel we never wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that labor party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing, if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced lies.
That's where you wanna be, debt and childhood poverty. Oh, somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy. Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit and holding, overflowing, postal folding, barefaced.
This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this. This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
I'm too busy reading your comments. When they named us rabble, the intention wasn't just to hold us in contempt. The intention was to send a message out to everyone who may join us or listen to us or hear the words that we speak, and send a signal that by being rabble, we are powerless, we are ineffective, we cannot bring about change, because that is what the definition of rabble is, that we are without power. Of course, we all know it is a myth, and if we did not know before, we know now, because in the end, the only people that have changed the world to make it from what it is or was to what it needed to be, each time it was nothing other than ordinary people, just like you and I. So they might brand us rabble, but we took the meaning, or we took their words and gave it meaning. We gave it purpose, and we made it into something extraordinary.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very, very warm welcome. It is Sunday, the 9th of May, 2021. This is the Recusant 9 transmission. This is actually the last of the Recusant 9 transmissions in our current weekly form. I was not going to do today, but it would be wrong because we have got to finish how we started. We acknowledge those who stand against oppression. We acknowledge those who did not fear them, who stood up to Fielding, to McMahon, to Angela Rayner, to Arud Shah, to Neil Wilby and the gangster Irish Imy, to Gail Granger, to Helen Page at the Guardian of all places, to Charlotte Green, to Jennifer Williams, to all the council officers who conspired and attempted once again to rig an election. You all failed because Sean Fielding is out. He has been defeated. We have taken out a tyrant. You, I, Mark Wilkinson, the Failsworth Independence Party, all of us stood together, the Proud Of team, and we took out a tyrant. We took out Sean Eric Fielding. How does it feel, Sean? Where are your Labour Party pals now, Sean? Deserted you, haven't they? Yes, and the reason they've deserted you, Sean, they're like vultures. Within minutes, Sean, within minutes, Arud Shah was having conversations with her friends of going for it. Guess what she was going for, Sean? Yeah. I want to put something up there because I think I want to start with this. Who was with me on Thursday night? Oh my Lord, 9.5 hours, and I managed to witter on for most of it, I think. 9.5 hours. It was brilliant, wasn't it? It was absolutely brilliant. Now, after the 9.5 hours, I couldn't help myself. I had to go shopping. Actually, I was going for a vaccine, but I had to go shopping. Good afternoon. So here I am, as you do. Come and find the Tesco. I'm at my local, not so local Tesco in Failsworth. Popped by to do some shopping. Some of those aisles were really, really high. I'm telling you, some of those aisles in this Tesco are really, really high. What they need is some tall members of staff in there. And if they had some tall members of staff in there, they could, maybe help with the shelf stacking. Anyone know anyone who might be able to become a shelf stacker in Tesco's? Do let me know. I couldn't help myself. I really, really couldn't help myself. But they do have some tall shelves there. Right, okay. Serious stuff as well. Please, if you haven't subscribed, last I checked, I was 1 off 400 on YouTube. And even though thousands and thousands follow me on Facebook, and they follow the Recusant 9 channel that they've been desperately trying to take off. On YouTube, I was at 399 subscribers. It's all free. I'm trying to keep it all free so people can follow. So please subscribe to me on the YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed already. Like the video if you haven't already. Like the video. There's over 100 of you watching and I've got 48 likes. So I'd like to think you get value in these interactions. It has been, I'm being honest, it has been more than a full-time job these last 2 years. And I'm grateful to all of you who've joined this journey with me, and I'm grateful to the likes of the Proud of Oldham team and the Failsworth Independent team, and even the Conservatives who've been taking what I've been sharing and running with it. I'm exhausted. It's been more than a full-time job. It has been more than a full-time job, and it's been relentless. For 2 years, I have been relentless. And I'm not saying I'm finished, because we have unfinished business. And as well as unfinished business, we've got much more work to do. So, if you can, please support me and buy me a coffee. I'm going to go off for a couple of weeks. I think my plans are to do a monthly Recusant 9 transmission, the last Sunday of the month. So that's what my plans are. I'm going to put together a series of educational programs for those who want to become councillors and politicians, and put together an online course. And also I have got this idea on what I call 9-minute masterclasses that I'm going to put on YouTube. So that is what I'll be doing moving forward. But please, to keep me going between now and then, support me, buymeacoffee.com/Recusant9. And they even wrote to whoever runs Buy Me a Coffee. I have no idea who runs Buy Me a Coffee, but they even wrote to whoever runs Buy Me a Coffee to try and have that removed, to stop you from giving me £2 or £2.50. It's £2, isn't it? From giving me £2 to help keep me going. That's how desperate they got. And that desperation is not going to end, because they are going to come back harder, stronger, more ruthless than ever before, because they did not believe that what took place on Thursday night was possible. Remember, Sean Fielding still pulled 1,200 plus votes. Massive, massive support for the Labour Party. Pulled out all the stops. They had Angela Rayner out campaigning in the afternoon. The press out there telling their own story. Andy Burnham up. And it's remarkable. Even then, Councillor Mark. Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I have to say good evening to a few people, I think. Debbie, good evening. I'm Paul. Oh, Paul. 41 votes short, Paul. But I'll do it now. Whilst Paul said good evening. Paul, I'll do it now. Because you know by now, I don't care. I call it how I see it. The Lib Dems are an absolute disgrace. And the Save Our Valleys team, coordinating team, as far as I can tell, and I've looked at this, and I'm pretty sure I'm spot on with this, slurred Paul Shilton, even though he'd worked and tirelessly volunteered for several years, slurred him, maligned him, and he lost those 21 votes at the end that would have made him a councillor. The people of Oldham and Saddleworth will not forget. Save Our Valleys and all the others who are running that sort of NIMBY way of not in our neighbourhood but build it somewhere else. That's why the people of Oldham are so divided. If we don't come together, and at some point if we do not believe that the Liberals work hand in hand with this corrupt Labour Party run council, then we're not going to get anywhere, because you've elected a Lib Dem councillor in Saddleworth West and Lees. You'll see him. He'll do bugger all for you, like all the others have done bugger all for you. He'll sit on his hands. He'll look towards Howard Sykes. No. Idiots. Absolute idiots. 41 votes. Paul Shilton would have been a great councillor for you. But we go on. We go on. Bailed at 5. What sort of 5? You know, we were only just warming up around 5:30. I think the results, yeah, we were only just warming up about 5:30. Thank you, James, for making it 400. Thank you very, very much. And yes, Debbie, tell them, click the like and buy me a coffee. I've not worked for 2 years. This has been my life. Essentially, this has been my life for 2 years. Not that I'm complaining, because look how far we as a town have come. We've got a long way to go yet, but look how far we as a town have come. My friend Lee, I will pop over for a cup of tea and we'll sit outside this month, I think. So, yeah, would love to. Gary Tarbuck, good evening, Gary. You did really well, and the votes you pulled in were really, really good. You know, the Proud of team, real solid foundation. Real solid foundation. Came consistently second in places, pulled very, very well the votes. And even though they'd been maligned as far-right activists and racists by individuals, including council officers. Shameful. Shameful. He's just Mark Kenyon is just... I've not met him yet, Debbie, but we'll meet him sooner or later. We'll get him at the All-Outs in 2 years. Oh, Mark, you did well as well, mate. You did really well. Me and Deb's watching a teak and calf ball crying on each other's souls. Well, that's what you get for ignoring the grooming and gang rape of our children. I have no sympathy. I have absolutely no sympathy. Exactly. Sat on their hands. Sir, I'm surprised he didn't slap the lad. And you know what made it even more fun? Hartlepool. Hartlepool made it for me even more comedy. Because in the background, because I couldn't watch any of this at the time, people were telling me what had gone in Hartlepool. And I watched Jim McMahon crying on the telly and talking absolute garbage. And then I watched I read the stuff the following day. They'd sent Jim McMahon up to Hartlepool to lead the campaign. Okay? Because they'd seen this guy win by 20,000 votes in Oldham. What Keir Starmer and the rest of the metropolitan elite idiots didn't recognise. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jill. My first coffees. Thank you. Yes. What they didn't realise, what these guys didn't realise was that the 20,000 votes his healthy majority in Oldham is a consequence of the dodgy relationships he has with the Muslims, the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis, and the secret funding of the mosques and the samosa nibbling. There was none of that in Hartlepool, so they got slapped. And then his mate got sacked. Angela Rayner got sacked. Brilliant. She can't be sacked from the deputy leadership position because that's an elected position. But the position she can be sacked from, she got sacked. And Body Bags Burnham, who sat on a grooming gang report, delayed it until after the election, hoping that his mate, Sean Fielding, would stay in. He comes out and says, I cannot support this sacking. Well, Burnham, do you support the grooming and gang rape of children in my town, Burnham? Do you support the rigging of elections? I know you want to make our town into the dumping ground of Greater Manchester. Get rid of all our green belts so we can build more houses that you guys from the south of Manchester want. Build a toxic tower that takes all the plastics and pumps poisonous gases into the atmosphere above our town. You want that, don't you, Burnham? Yeah, I cannot support this. Well, we cannot support you. So, Oldham council leader was apparently saddened by the tone of the campaign, both politically and personally. Well, who set the tone? Who set the tone? Who wrote to the employers of people with false, fabricated allegations that they were involved with far-right activists who were racist, who were child abusers, who used his official position as the leader of the council, even attacked the family members of people he didn't like. Who set the tone? The Labour Party set the tone. Sean Fielding set the tone, and every one of those Labour Party councillors in the town hall and every Lib Dem scumbag set the tone. Because they sat on their hands and remained silent to it all. Didn't you, Howard? Didn't you, Sam Al-Hamdani? And that's why some of you got took out as well. Who set the tone? I am so proud of all of your efforts in joining me on this, you know, it's been an epic journey. We have took out the leader of the council, despite them trying to have us arrested, endorsing murder, harassing, false, you know, abusing their positions, mobilising councillors, mobilising council officials. And we still took out the leader of the council. We're finished, aren't they? The Labour Party as we know it are finished. The Labour Party as we know it are finished. It's the cartels, mate. Rayner doesn't have any protection from the cartels being Failsworth way, does she? I mean, there's a bit of a Bangladeshi community hideaway and stuff, I suppose, but she's got bugger all in terms of cartel support. And like, if you remember my sharing of my insights into the cartels work across constituencies. They work across the country. You were, weren't you? From start to finish. And I remember about 11 o'clock, someone said, oh, they're expecting the results about 6. I said, nah, that's not going to happen. It's going to be 102. It was 102 because he left the building. Now, this is a serious bit. As someone who spent huge parts of his life around people who are leaders, I have some expectations of people in leadership position. Win or lose, even if you despise the opposition and you don't want to shake his hand, you stay to acknowledge the support of those who stood by you. You stay to acknowledge the support of those who stood by you. Fielding left. He walked out halfway through the night when he'd worked out he'd lost. The only way he'd have worked out he's lost is some of the council officers would have slipped him the real numbers. And we all know about Julie Bruce and their elections team. If you were with me on Thursday night, you'll have seen how they harassed a white young man and tried to prevent him from voting. Illegally, unlawfully. And the police came and harassed this young man as well. But what Sean Fielding should have done, is thanked those who stood by him. Or, if not him, those who stood by the Labour Party. There was a Jewish Labour Party MP from Gorton. He died a couple of years ago. He spoke for me once at a leadership programme I ran at Gerald Kaufman, a leadership programme I used to run across Manchester many years ago. And he came and spoke. He got off, and he was in his 80s at the time, late 80s at the time. He got off a train from Parliament, made his way from Piccadilly down to the town hall in Manchester to speak to 60 or 70 young people. We were putting through a leadership program, and many of these young people now are journalists, politicians, policy workers. So, you know, we did well. We did good there. And one of the young people got up and asked him a question about leadership and what his reflections on leadership were. And one of them was about loyalty and the need to stand by people, not just when they're right, but even when they're wrong, and to guide them through that into a better position. And those words stuck with me. And I knew as a consequence of that, Sean Fielding would draw on the loyalty of many, many people. He'd draw on the loyalty of many, many Labour supporters. And he did. He got the best part of 1,200 votes. But he treated those people with contempt by leaving the election partway through. Forget not shaking Mark's hand. Forget that. He treated his own Labour Party supporters with contempt by leaving. But then this is the behaviour of what has consistently been a petulant young man. There you go, Paul. Yeah. And yes, Mark, disrespectful right unto the end. And I'm presuming this is someone else who's got his account banned multiple times signing up. But yeah, I agree with you, lad. Well, he left so he could go and delete the files off his hard drive. I think it's just immaturity. Oh, wait. I honestly think it's just... Yeah. Immaturity. I had once had the joy of having dinner next to him, Lee, at Longsight, I think it was. And he came to speak at an event, and they sat me next to him. They decided I had the most chat, so I could sit next to him. And yeah, I've got chat, as people found out on Thursday night. I got plenty of chat. And he was old then. He had a snooze. I looked over. In between the starter and the main course, he had a snooze. And then got up. Sharp. Went to the front. Standing ovation. He was a good man. Good politician. We don't have people like that. I think that sums it up, doesn't it, Julie? A spoiled brat. I hear he's now off Twitter and Facebook. So, no, I hear that's the case. I think that was a disgrace, wasn't it? The Oldham Times in the lead up, Paul. And in the lead up to this election, just so we're clear what the council did and what the local press did, they maligned the independents. They promoted Sean Fielding to the point where his girlfriend was getting a headline piece that she's running a marathon 5 or 6 months later. That wasn't an accident. And then what we had was the leader of the council with the chief executive, just days before Purdah, send a letter out to every household in the town, congratulating themselves on how well they'd been doing. It was a clear electioneering stunt. And when Robert from South Chadderton, the Conservative lad who came so close, when he wrote an FOI, the response to the FOI as to how much money was spent was vague enough that leads me to suspect that Carolyn Wilkins is lying, is trying to avoid, let's not say lying, is trying to avoid being honest with how much it cost. Because she gave a figure, and I think it was something like £40,000. £40,000 to send a letter out. An unnecessary letter, completely unnecessary letter, but it was PR for Fielding. But the way it was written, she used the words produce. And I believe produce excludes the term delivery of how much the stamps also cost. Because I can't work out her letter to every household in the town only amounts to £40,000. The stamps alone would cost more. No. Dr. Carolyn Wilkins and her senior team of council officers are neck deep in everything that is wrong about this town. Julie Bruce, the elections officer. How dare Julie Bruce allow the malicious blogger and proven liar Neil Wilby to attend? Now, Neil Wilby takes offence to my referencing him as a malicious blogger and proven liar. And I think for the purposes of YouTube, because he will be seeing this and he will try and get this taken down, it's not me who is using these terms. I think it's very, very important. Let me find it. Let me find it. I want to show you this. Here you have the term malicious blogger. Neil Wilby banned from contacting independent police complaints commission investigators after tormenting them online. And here he is. So the term malicious blogger is not my term. It is a term that a government body, the Police Complaints Commission investigators, made reference to him as a malicious blogger. There he is. And it's a judge. A judge had come to the aid. Okay? So the term malicious blogger is not from me. The term malicious blogger is from a judge. And the newspaper here, you can see. The next thing, if I can find it. Yorkshire Live, you can see it again. Huddersfield's Neil Wilby ordered to pay £78,000 in Savile slur libel damages and costs to policemen. He'd made up some lies about a policeman who was fearful of his life, so he was found to have libelled him. That means he is a proven liar. When you're ordered to pay £78,000 in a Savile slur libel damages, that makes you a proven liar. So you can, Neil Wilby, go and complain to YouTube or sue me or whatever nonsense you want to rant about. But you are a malicious blogger and you are a proven liar. Now, the third thing I made reference to was his association with heroin dealers. He took offence to that. Convicted heroin dealers. He took offence to that, okay? Let me show you something. Here is Gail Hadfield Granger talking to Arooj Shah, who hangs off the arm of a convicted heroin dealer. And here is Neil Wilby's response to Gail Hadfield Granger, who is friends with, if anyone knows the relationship. This from one of the most beautiful, talented, intelligent, streetwise women I've ever met, with a heart of pure gold. Thank you so much for supporting Councillor Shah as you do. Get well. Team Arouge. Hashtag Team Arouge. You ready? A gang ran a drugs factory, court told. A drugs factory raided by police could have produced up to £5 million worth of heroin. Up to £5 million worth of heroin. The 7 defendants: Gary Knox, Philip Mehring, Gail Hadfield, and also you'll find further along her boyfriend at the time, or who to be her husband later, Anthony Granger. There you go. A drugs factory raided by police could have produced up to £5 million off of heroin, and look who's involved in that. Do you see? Do you see? So, when I make reference to Wilby as a malicious blogger, it's from the Yorkshire News, based upon a court case. When I make reference to him as a proven liar, it's because he had to pay libel damages of over £70,000 after he completely fabricated a set of lies, according to a judge. And when I talk about his association with heroin dealers and those involved in gangs selling heroin, well, forget Irish Imy. Have a look at Gail Hadfield, whose husband that the police shot dead, however wrong they shot him dead, was a convicted criminal, and the guy next to him in the car at the time was later imprisoned for killing someone. These are gangsters. And these are gangsters who are now trying to infiltrate our town. Sean Fielding on Thursday night was hanging around with Irish Imy, of course. And the issue I have with that, and I'll bring that up. The issue I have with that, and I have no you can see it there. Look where Irish Imy's ended up on Thursday night, he says. He's at the bloody count. What on earth is a guy who is convicted in December for a crime against me, having only recently come out of prison for his role as the getaway driver of an Oldham cop killer, convicted heroin dealer? What on earth is he doing at the count? And then hanging around with Sean Fielding. What on earth is he doing at the count? And this is why it's worrying. On the 9th of January last year, after Arouge Shah stood up and lied about what had happened to her, or what I'd done to her, lied. Sue me, Arouge. You'd lied. Because what you stood up and said was different to what I'd written. And it's still there. My post is still there, and you twisted it. You liar. Arouge Shah, you're a liar. The deputy leader of Oldham Council, who wants now to be the leader of Oldham Council, is a liar. But you know what is really, really troubling here? Here's Irish Imy referencing the racist Debbie Cole. You can see that. Referencing me. This is before he got convicted, clearly. Got convicted, didn't you, lad? But this is the bit. Look at this. Irish Imy takes a picture of all the Asian councillors and making reference, intimidating them. Intimidating them. He's talking about kids' futures. Here is a convicted heroin dealer talking about kids' futures. Just who does he think he is? And do you know what he did? Do you know what he did? He singled out the councillors he felt did not support his childhood friend sufficiently. So when a gangster like him singles out councillors, this is nothing other than intimidation. He singles out councillors who did not clap their hands sufficiently. So it shouldn't surprise any of you. It shouldn't surprise any of you that now we know who the councillors are that want to become the next leader, that the phone calls have started, the intimidation has started across these communities. I'm not saying from Irish Imy. You'll have to decide that yourself. But the cartels have started their own civil war and also pushing their own candidate. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So let's have a look at the candidates. First and foremost, we have Arooj Shah. You've got to go for it. Before the results had even been announced. Now, what I'll share now is my analysis of the situation from what the little I know and what I've been able to put together. How much you believe is, of course, entirely up to you. Arooj Shah is not just damaged goods. She has a series. She's not just damaged goods for herself. There is a massive issue now for Jim McMahon. He stood by Arooj Shah because of the votes she delivers, essentially. In the same way he stood by Abdul Jabbar because of the votes he delivers. And what's now taking place is Jim actually doesn't want Arooj Shah to be the leader of the council because of the baggage and the consequence of her relationship with convicted gangsters. Her brother is currently in Pakistan on the run, waiting for this encrochat heat to die down before he comes back. The dodgy ice cream parlour. Remember, her brother's a convicted money launderer. Jim McMahon's already neck deep in trouble that he wants to cover up of his relationship with Irish Imy and how we provided him with a reference, an MP providing the getaway driver of an Oldham cop killer with a reference. Just imagine that. We know why it's not on the mainstream news. It's because the mainstream news are in the pockets of these politicians. They'd rather talk about how much Boris Johnson spent on his wallpaper than the fact that the shadow transport minister providing a reference for the getaway driver of an Oldham cop killer, the convicted heroin dealing getaway driver. Why is that not in the news? My understanding, Jack, is she can also help who she chooses to, yeah. No, let me present it another way. Aruj, as a prominent Muslim woman in a position of leadership in this town, I'm sure you agree with me that, particularly because you hold the position of the deputy leader of the council currently, wanting to be the leader of the council, and also particularly because you work for the MP and you hold prominent positions for Andy Burnham, that you would join me in disagreeing with this concept of a parallel legal system of where Islamically people, men, can have 2 wives, 3 wives and 4 wives, and that you'd condemn any woman who went to the mosque and had an Islamic wedding to be a second wife and not having it to register in the legal way, in the civil way in this country. And I'm sure you'd condemn that, wouldn't you, Aruj? You wouldn't agree with Islamic weddings that aren't then carried forward through our legal system, would you, Aruj? You'd find that disgraceful because of all the women who are forced to become second wives and third wives and fourth wives. Isn't that right, Aruj? Oh, but Sally, you missed a point. I want her to become leader. I'll tell you why I want her to become leader. Because Jim's stuck. McMahon knows that if she doesn't become leader, then all the things we've been releasing about the Labour Party run Oldham Council is true. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you want a young Muslim, westernised woman, clearly intelligent, hold position of power? Why would you not want her to be the leader of the council? Unless you believe all the stuff we've been sharing and the pictures we've been showing of her hanging off the arm of Irish Imy. Openly liaising with Neil Wilby, the proven liar, malicious blogger, associate with heroin dealers. What was Neil Wilby doing invited into the count? After he had openly attacked innocent members of the town, including candidates where he'd conspired in the lies about them. Wilby's referenced me as a far-right activist, haven't you, Neil? As well as all your other nonsense. And that apparently I'm being investigated by one police department and another department and another department. All lies. But we know he's a liar because he's already been proven to be a liar in the courts. What is the former leader of the council doing? And what is Julie Bruce doing, allowing him in? He's not the press. What press interest does he have in Oldham? Oh, our ice cream parlour, Gary, I'm hearing is, well, who's running the ice cream parlour? Because didn't the ice cream parlour get the £10,000 grant? Didn't the ice cream parlour then get something like £50,000 loan? And now, her brother, who suddenly ended up owning this ice cream parlour after it had been transferred to him when we exposed Aruj Shah for a failure to declare, and then a yo-yo ownership of yes, I own it, no, I don't, and backdated her paperwork and still got caught because Companies House kept all the records. Who is running this ice cream parlour? And what is this I'm hearing about this ice cream parlour now becoming a shisha bar? Which is where all this started. Shisha bars, ice cream parlours, nail salons. car washes. When I was a lad, I used to have a friend of mine, a black lad, and I'd laugh at him. He wanted to open a sun tanning shop thing with the... I'm saying, what are you trying to do that? He goes, oh, because all these lads want to give me some cash. The money laundering in this town is of epic value. So Julie Bruce, who invited Neil Wilby into the count, and who invited Irish Imy into the count. A malicious blogger and a proven liar with clear links and associations with heroin dealers and criminal gangs. And then a gangster. Convicted heroin dealer. You couldn't make it up, could you? So Arud Shah wants to be the leader. And the phone calls are going around to make sure that people vote in a certain way or else. I think that's about right, Katie. Now, the reason why I want Arud Shah to be the next leader is even more will come out. Because we're not going anywhere. And she's up for a re-election in South Chadderton next year. And I believe Robert, the Conservative, who narrowly lost out by 200 votes, will take her out. Because there's no cartels in South Chadderton in the same way there was no cartels in Failsworth. Lynn, my information is found from many places. You just have to decide how much of my information is me speculating and how much of my information is from sources in the community and in the town hall. I'd like to think my 2-year track record is something that has value. No, Gary, I need to get a job, Gary, actually. I really do need to get a job. At some point, I need to get a job. And with COVID coming to an end, I think... so if anyone's hiring, do give me a call. I'm not sure what I'm good at, but I'm sure I'm good at something. So please, yeah. So... Sally, I'll get to this. I'll go through the process with you in a moment, with you all in a moment. So that's candidate number 1, Arud Shah, and the phone calls are going around. Candidate number 2 is Abdul Jabbar, who just managed to win by 71 votes. He's lost all credibility in Coldust. The people of Coldust rose up against him, and he had to pull every favour he knew. And my information, again, it's my information. You decide how much is true and how much is me just speculating. Is that it's promised so many 5-bedroom houses, they'll be building them for the next 50 years. But let's be clear. Jabbar launched his re-election campaign alongside a convicted sex offender. And without that convicted sex offender's mini cartel votes, he would never have got elected. So Jabbar is reliant on the endorsement of a sex offender who sat next to him whilst he launched his re-election campaign. So Abdul Jabbar wants to be the leader. And remember, he took care of our finances for the last God knows how many years. He's been the council in charge of finances. The council's own auditor, 2 months ago, made reference not once but twice that the council This town was at risk of risk of bankruptcy. So he wants to be the leader. Then you have Dr. Chauhan, who outwardly, from my point of view, I think if I had to choose between the three of these, Dr. C would be it. Because on the whole, he's kept himself away from controversy. He ran the campaign to do with the homeless people getting jabs. I could see the sentiment of that. I was fine with that. I mean, I disagreed with some of them who were put up first because they weren't really homeless and they were career criminals. But that's not down to him. He didn't pick who got the jabs. So I was endorsing. I was sympathetic of that. He's McMahon's mate, though. Fielding will tell you that Chauhan and McMahon, in the same way as Jabbar and Arud Shah, they would regularly meet. No one messed with Dr. C when it came to the election. Romped home in Alexander, not like Abdul Jabbar. But Dr. C does not go without a scandal himself. He ended up owning what was Royton Youth Club. The council put it up, first of all, for sealed bids. And then for some reason at a council meeting, changed their mind of not having the sealed bids and took it to auction where Dr. Chauhan secured the purchase. And then the building suddenly had problems. And now it was an ideal building plot. How convenient. Now all of these could be coincidences. But the council surely need to explain why it was they took bids and then changed their minds after they'd received the bids and took it to auction where Dr. Chauhan won it. See, the sleaze, the Tories did this just before the elections. They tried to push through a motion to support the town to rebuild some trust in their councillors and improve the transparency and accountability and the declaration of interest and stuff of councillors. But of course, Sean Fielding and his Asian councillor friends in particular, voted that down. They didn't want that. I couldn't work it out in the end, David. I couldn't work it out in the end. But Dr. C is not without controversy, I think is what I'm saying. Then you have Shahid Mushtaq, who's been touted because the Pakistanis backing him will be pushing him because they want their boy there. My suspicion, analysis, choose whichever word you want, is that Shahid Mushtaq will do a deal with Arud Shah and will be her number 2 as her deputy. Now remember, Shahid Mushtaq, completely out of control brother in Tahir Mushtaq, ranting and raving all the time, abusing, associated with gangsters and drug dealers himself. Last I heard, he was accusing me of being a child abuser, wanting to have a fight with me, completely out of control, masquerading as a solicitor when he wasn't. Apparently I'm going to get sued because his brother wasn't involved in the purchase of land. It's all on my website. The only thing I'm referencing are council documents. Now, unless he's disowned his other brother that he's a business partner with, Shahid Mushtaq knows he's been caught bang to rights in the purchase of land that it appears he did not disclose his relationship with his brother and business partner who was buying it. Now, in a town like ours, what does that hint to? And all of the information I released was from council documents. I've not made it up. So yeah, sue me. So we have Shahid Mushtaq, who the first thing he did was accuse Debbie Cole of being a racist. Shouted at her while she was leaving a meeting, "You're a racist." All she'd gone to the council meeting for, and this was at a time when most of us had never even met Debbie Cole, was that she wanted questions answering around Shabir Ahmed, Daddy, who had released, was an employee of Oldham Council. They still haven't had the courage to confirm that. They called me a liar, tried to get me sued, tried to remove my voice, which is how we ended up ultimately here. But Shabir Ahmed was an employee of Oldham Council and also a member of the Labour Party. Should we not know this? In the same way Councillor Rod Blythe is a convicted child sex offender that the council also hid. Do you see the form here? So yes, not one of these so far have been clean. So those are your 4 Asian candidates. So in desperation, the white councillors are looking to McMahon and looking amongst themselves to try and put forward white candidates that might be cleaner, which is perfect, because if they put forward these 2 other candidates, Amanda Chadderton and Hannah Roberts, I think, what they are confirming is that everything we've said about these Asian candidates is true. You've got a gangster's moll. You've got a sex offender's mate. You've got Dr. Chauhan with his Royton Youth Club and his links to McMahon. And will it be Dr. Chauhan in charge, or is it just another proxy that McMahon works through? And you've got Shahid Mushtaq and his out-of-control brother, who he has refused to distance himself from. And then you have Amanda Chadderton. Now, I met Amanda Chadderton when I don't particularly like her. I don't particularly dislike her. I don't think she's an effective politician at all. But what I'm trying to work out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, because I'm putting 2 and 2 together from 2 different bits of my life to try and make sense of this. Your partner is Councillor Battle, isn't she? Who is, and I have no issue. Before anyone tries to twist it, I don't care if your partner is male, female, him, her, it, whatever the trendy acronyms are. That's not the point I'm making. But you've one of you have had a baby recently. If one is a councillor in Manchester and one is a councillor in Oldham, exactly where are you both living? Because I'm presuming that if you've both had a baby together, that you're living together. Are you living in Manchester? Or is she living in Oldham? Or are we going to have someone as a leader of the council who doesn't even live in the town? And that's putting aside that she's just limp, ineffective. Something to do with education, and the education offer in Oldham has been in special measures, and the social services stuff has been in a mess for years. So she's completely ineffective. And then you've got Hannah Roberts, who's never done anything, anywhere. They think she might be a safe pair of hands because she doesn't have any sleeves attached to her. So if they vote for Hannah, it proves everything we've said. So the only person they can vote for is Arooj Shah. And what have I been telling you for months? Ladies and gentlemen, the next leader of Oldham Council is going to be Arooj Shah. McMahon is interested in what goes on in Oldham for two reasons. One, he's reliant on the cartel control block vote to give him the vote so he can have a stable base from which to rise in the Labour Party. Remember, he has his aspirations of becoming leader of the Labour Party. And the second reason I believe he still has an interest in Oldham because of all the skeletons he left behind. He needs to make sure they remain buried. Which is why he's still refusing to clarify why he used the funeral of Lee Rigby to hide news of grooming gangs. Why will the MP of a town not answer the people of the town such a simple question? And McMahon vendetta against me. Where has that got you, McMahon? Such a powerful, powerful man. Yet here I still am. Where's your mate? Where's your boy, Sean Fielding? Are you going to give him a job, McMahon? Or are you going to leave it to Andy Burnham to give him a job? My understanding is a consortium of Asian businessmen, including councillors or their families, have bought it to make it into a flats or a massive HMO or something. That's my understanding. I've only come across the email, but it's too much of a rant for me, Lynn, to make sense of, so it's not something I've got myself involved in. There's a Mr. Atif Rafiq and an email to do with Clarksfield School. I've just looked at it. I've not got myself involved in it. And sorry, and I think I said on Thursday night, so those of you who tuned in, that I was going to take a break because I'm exhausted. And still my phone's full of messages. Can you look at this? Can you look at that? And I'm sorry, I can't. It's not because I don't want to. Because I just don't think I'll be able to give it justice right now. It's been exhausted to get to where we've got to. We've took on all of them. And I'm not being disrespectful to anyone here. But front and centre was me. And it's left me completely exhausted. What I find interesting, because I sent out some congratulations to some of the Conservatives, was they all listened to me. But none of them will speak to me publicly. So they've won off the back of the issues we've raised. And they're going to go into the town hall, and Mark's going to go into the town hall. And so we've got 3 Failsworth independents, a few more Tories. And I fear what will come next. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. From the beginning, these people have been calling us racist. It's not their agenda that is an issue. This is the Shorten Crompton Labour branch. It's the connection with the far right. Proud of all them guys have no connection with the far right. This guy, Guy Parker, is apparently a policy officer for the council. A policy officer for the council is involved in making a series of horrendous allegations that is continued throughout election night as his mate Sean Fielding wasn't winning. This policy officer from Oldham Council, Guy Parker, should be investigated. He should be sacked. Yes, Lynn, I know you'd have... Someone's trying to get some traction on that, Lynn, but I'm not interested, I'm afraid. Debbie will tell you. And thank you, Debbie, for the Eid greeting. I think it's Thursday. I'm hoping it's Thursday. But we get so much stuff through and we invest so much time, and then we start to unpick it when things don't stack up, because I'm an honest and forthright person in the way I ask my questions. And if the answers aren't honest and forthright, I back away. And that's happened multiple times, which is why some people have got angry at me. Yes, Anita, we know Aruj is up for election next May. And I think what I'm saying is, I want her to be leader, so we can take out another leader next May. We'll take her out easier in South Chadderton. Her own people in Glodick didn't want her and voted her out. And that's even after the council tried to rig an election. And I'm saying this again, live. Someone can come and sue me or arrest me if they want. The council, Oldham Council, tried to rig an election. They undervalued and sold, handed over Glodick Baths to mates of Aruj Shah days before the election. Even at the time, they knew they were mates. If you're getting value in this, please buy me a coffee, subscribe, like. I'm up to 68 likes and 112 people watching, so that's nice. I'd like to have thought I would have got a few more likes, but please subscribe to the channel, like the channel. I need to just break my fast, so I'm going to go and have heat up some Vimto and a packet of crisps or something, and I will leave you with this song again, I think, whilst we do that.
Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wanna wear it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we never wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that labor party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal phony, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you can shoot and hold, overload, post and floating, perfect. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you can shoot and hold, overload, post and floating, perfect. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think that we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you can shoot and hold, overload, post and floating, perfect. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda, and it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think that we ever wanna defend, yeah? 'Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you can shoot and hold, overload, post and floating, perfect.
I think it's very difficult. It's an unfair question to ask Debbie repeatedly. I think about coming back to Oldham, because it's difficult for her to come back to Oldham. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for those coffees. It's difficult for Debbie to come back to Oldham because if you followed the news, the social media space, the same people are still now hounding Mark. Now he's become a councillor. Their objective is to make this a ghetto town, where the cartels control the town and gangsters rule. Debbie can't come back. The police refused to investigate what eventually became someone threatening to kidnap and rape her. And Detective Inspector Kenny Blaine did what he did, which was avoid investigating. He'd have been ordered to do that. Then you've got Wilby, who's now trying to discredit Mark even before he's become a councillor. You've got the likes of Helen Pidd, who never met Mark Wilkinson. This is a Guardian reporter, senior Guardian reporter, talking about the Failsworth independence in one sentence and then talking about far-right groups in the next. We know those two might be separate sentences, but we know what they are trying to claim. We've got Charlotte Fringe, who in an article twisted it as one of the achievements of Sean Fielding was that he commissioned an investigation into the historical grooming and gang raping of children in the town, as though Sean Fielding was somehow responsible for the investigation. That barefaced liar has been nothing other than trying to cover it up. And Charlotte Green knows, and she twisted it. I saw that. Someone sent me that. I think someone had set up a fake Wilby account and it caused chaos for a little while. No, it wasn't me. It's not my style. But I did chuckle at it. I was still too busy thinking what Sean Fielding would put on his CV for his next job. Debbie, give me a call if you want, and I'll put you on speaker, and you can chat away about what election night was like for all of you, because you came up short, didn't you, Debbie? It's not a criticism. Tried your best. You nearly got one over the line. And what next? For the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworthy, for Paul, by all means, one of you, give me a call, and I'll put you on. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for the coffees. Thank you very, very much. Anyone else think he's not a full shilling? Am I allowed to say that? Does that get me in trouble? I don't think he's a full shilling at all. We'll be now blaming Angela Rayner, why Sean Fielding lost, saying he was doing good till she popped up to canvas. So she popped up about 4 o'clock on the Thursday to canvas. And it was because of her people went and voted for someone else. Or didn't go and vote for him. No. The Angela Rayner story stuff is interesting. And the Labour Party still haven't got it. I'll do that now. Those of you who read Welcome to Oldham Part 1, and remember this is now best part of 2 years ago, you'll have seen how I shared, an Asian bloke, shared what I considered to be the disenfranchisement and the disempowerment of the white working class. This was before the general election where Boris came in. It was before any of this stuff where Labour are now completely rudderless. And what took place is that the Labour Party have taken poor white people for granted. And what the Labour Party have also done is abused the trust that they gave them. And they think that they can just waltz on in, and we, working class people, will just keep going back and going back and going back to be used as a pawn in their games. And it's not working anymore. And they can't understand why it's not working anymore. And whatever anyone says of the Tories, in terms of their values, there is one value that they have. It's called pragmatism. They will do whatever it takes to win. So they've adapted. They've looked upon these working class communities. They've seen the disenfranchisement, and they've jumped in and offered a viable alternative. That isn't the anti-working class historical narrative of the Tories. So whatever the Labour idiots are saying just isn't washing. So they've betrayed the working class. And they've took them for granted and treated them as fools. The Labour Party, in the same way it's been overrun by the cartels in towns like Oldham, has been overrun by a fake liberal, privileged white elite from the likes of Didsbury throughout the country, who have no grounding in our communities, our way of life, or the issues that our people face. And they are quick to call us racist, brand us racist, when we are not racist, and we never have been racist. And we've done more for anti-racism than they ever have or ever will do. No. Debbie, Mark, of course, Mark Wilkinson is more than allowed to phone in. I'd love to speak to Mark, but I didn't want to put him under any pressure whatsoever. And I know things are going to get difficult for Mark and all of the others in the council because of the historical links and associations with me. I know. I was chatting to my brother yesterday, who was telling me about a Labour Party councillor who was checking in on with me through my brother to see how I was, and how he wasn't allowed to check in on me direct. He was worried someone would take his phone off him at some point or something, and he'd then get in trouble. He'd get suspended for checking in on me to see how I was, even though we're friends. Here's Debbie. How you doing, Debbie?
I'm doing good, Roger. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'll put you on speaker, Debbie, and you share what's gone on with the town hall and stuff, and yeah, you share. You chat away.
Well, do you know, I'm really, really saddened. That's the only word I can think of with Oldham Council and what's gone on in this town. And what happened on Thursday night with Irish Imy attending that count, it absolutely, I'll be honest with you, it broke my heart, because I thought, why have they invited a criminal into an official event, in such an important event? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't absolutely believe it. But Oldham Council, you've got the Sahir Mushtaq that did stand up in the council chambers and call me a racist and a bully.
I didn't imagine that, did I? I didn't imagine that. You did that, didn't you?
No. I've got it on video. You can see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can see it. He did. He stood up and he said he was bullied as a child, and for a grandmother to bully Asian woman, which I didn't. I never mentioned that she was Asian or anything, I never. In fact, when I addressed Arusha, the only thing I said was, "Are we all having ice creams at your parlour after?" You know what I mean? And what's happened is, for my story, for what happened with me with Oldham Council, I went up as a genuinely concerned, and I am still a genuinely concerned resident of Oldham who has children and has grandchildren, and I wanted to ask my council, who I trusted and put all my trust into, one simple question. That's all I wanted to ask, one simple question. And from that, my life has been completely turned upside down. And that text that you put up earlier regarding Irish Imy, where he calls me the Queen, racist, I haven't got that, so I will be contacting you, Raja, to get that. Because I need that for the police force that I'm dealing with now, because I have now in Somerset. I've had to flee my town. I've had to leave my children and my grandchildren because that man Irish Imy is constantly calling me a racist, sharing my face. Look. He said he weren't even interested in politics. I've seen it on his Facebook page. How he's got no interest in politics in any way, shape, or form.
Well, how can you believe him? How can anyone believe him?
I can't believe the word the man says. I don't believe him. Well, he doesn't speak truth anyway, because you know what? I'm not a far-right racist. I'm not racist in any way, shape or form. My friends who, I've got black friends, I've got Asian friends, they're heartbroken the fact that I'm being called that when they know that I'm not. And this town now, I understand what you're saying about Rouge standing as council leader, but I have the biggest fear for Oldham. If she gets in as council leader, they will make sure that she's never voted out, and that is when the game completely changes in this town, because she is associated with criminals. It will become a gangster town. It won't ever, ever, ever be a normal, what I would call a normal town again. And it's not that normal at the moment. We've done absolutely fantastic. Mark Wilkinson and Neil Hindle and Brian Horbain, I'm so proud of them, what they've achieved. They've done absolutely amazing. And to take out Sean Fielding, who is appalling, who hasn't even got the decency to congratulate Matt Wilkinson on the night. He couldn't even stay for that. I didn't see him, but because we was all segregated on the night, we was all split up, and I was actually with me and Matt Birchall was actually in the civic centre where you go claim for your council tax. That's where we was, and then a lot of people was in the leisure centre, the swimming baths. And then some was in the Queen Elizabeth Hall. So we were segregated. But there's one thing for sure: if Irish Imy had walked into the civic centre, I would have been on the phone to Sergeant Andrew Day, who actually came to see me on the night. I would have been on the phone to him saying, "This is now intimidation and harassment," and I would have been fearful Earlier on that day, both Mark Birchall and I was outside Medlock Vale Methodist Church on Kev Lane, where the Conservative candidate was outside the polling station door where she wasn't supposed to be. I got out and she was talking to a resident, influencing the vote, and she said to me that, I was asking who she's voted for. I said, no, you weren't, because she just now walked in. And then all of a sudden, a gentleman came over, an Asian gentleman who was a big guy. He came over and he said to me, she can park where she wants. It's got nothing to do with you and who are you and what's it got to do with you. And I immediately just thought, I'm not telling you who I am. And I didn't know who was connected to. And I immediately turned around and got in my car because I'm fearful. I didn't know who he was connected to.
Well, he's a gangster, isn't he? He's a gangster.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's a gangster.
Yeah. So that was intimidation and harassment outside the polling station. It was reported to Sergeant Andrew Dane. It has been officially registered, and the same person then squared up to Mark Birchall as well outside the polling station. The stories and the truth of what went on Thursday, it will come out what's been going on, because a lot has been reported officially. But there was a war in Coldust. There was a war, and it's still ongoing. There was underhanded tactics happening on the day.
Is the cartels in Coldust? It's their heartland. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know personally that Council Jabbar has been harassing people in Coldust, phoning people's families, telling them that they need to speak to the members of their family and that they better and make sure that they vote for him. That's harassment and intimidation. That's being reported. That is going to be reported this week, and I've got proof and evidence of it. So I'm afraid Councillor Jabbar is in a lot of trouble, and it is going to be happening. A lot's going to be happening this week. But this is Oldham Council, and if Arush Shah gets in, my fear is she'll never be voted out. She'll never be, no matter what we do, no matter if we get the best candidates that step forward. And don't forget now, we've got 12 months now to the next election, and we need people to come forward who want to stand in their ward. And many people are asking me, will I come back? Will I come back? And one part of me says, do you know what? I will. I'll come back and I'll stand my ground. But then we've got this criminal side that's taken over, and I think, why should I put myself at risk? Why should I put
Debbie,
myself
what you've got is Dale Cregan's getaway driver suited up at the count of the local elections. It's unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of. Honestly, it's just he's a convicted heroin dealer.
Can people remember, please, that he drove a man that shot point blank an Oldham police lady?
And then his weapons, Dale Cregan's weapons, his grenades and stuff, they turned up in Glodick. They were found in Glodick afterwards.
Yeah. This is not somebody that might have robbed I don't know, a bloody lipstick out of boots or something. You're talking criminals here, serious criminals.
Well, you saw the stuff about Gail Granger I put up. You've seen that, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
£5 million worth of heroin. 5 million.
That's a lot of heroin. Brad Wood, stop trying it on with Debbie. I think somebody's trying it on with me. I don't know who it is. I've just read the comments then. But anyway, sorry. But no. I'm going, and I said this to Proud of Oldham Saddleworth yesterday. I'm going to stay in Somerset, and I'm going to have the summer, and I'm going to think about it. And if I'm going to come back and stand in the elections next year, I have to be in the town 3 months prior.
How are they all? So how are the Proud of Oldham team? How are they reflecting? What are they thinking about? What's next for them?
You know what? We are absolutely buzzing what we've achieved, and we've only achieved it through every one of the residents and the people who are on the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth and Oldham together, and everybody, each candidate's pages, and everybody that supports you. We are so grateful to everybody that went out. We had over 4,000 people. Let me just say that again. Over 4,000 people that went out and thought about us and voted for us.
Wow.
Mark Birchall won 3 of the boxes in this ward in Medlock Vale and got 52% of the vote. The only thing that he lost on was the postal vote. That's the only
Well,
thing
you know my
lost.
position on postal votes, yeah?
Yeah. And then Paul Schultz, I mean, on the night, his poor wife Sarah Schultz, she was nearly having a heart attack because, you know, you're seeing these pieces of paper but building up and building, and it was neck and neck. She was having palpitations. You know,
you know the Save Our Valleys lot sabotaged him, don't you?
Yeah, the Save Our Valleys people did do that because a lot of the Save Our Valleys, well, in fact, they are out there, the Labour supporters, aren't they? So, but you know what? It's not. We now are going to build. We are building now. Our campaign starts on Monday. We're having this weekend off, and we're starting again on Monday. That's how determined we are. We are determined. Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth. We are determined to keep going, and we're going to build. We are now a respectable, believable party. We're all independent. Don't get me wrong. We're all independent. But we've come together as a party in unity. We've come together to bring better for this town, and we are going to. Come Monday morning, we are back normal service.
And Lynn's just said something, and I find this really interesting and really saddening, because you were scared off, other women were scared off. No one from the council said anything. No one from the police said anything. No one from the Labour Party or the Lib Dems said anything. Yeah, I really would love to get involved, but I'm worried for myself and my family. And is that what should happen in a town? People should be worried to come forward, to stand to represent the town.
Including myself, we had 4 female candidates who was really, really interested. They wanted to stand, but then fear crept in. And, fear crept in with me as well, an athlete. And one part of me wants to be so obstinate and come back. And do you know what? I want to be so obstinate and stand. If I do come back, do you know what? I'd gladly move into South Chadderton and stand up against the Shah. I'd gladly stand against her. But I'm going to have to think of it, and I'm not going to promise anything. I'm not going to promise anybody anything, because I need to now speak to my family, and I need to speak to my friends, and I need to take time out. Like you, Roger, it has been. You and I have been very, very anxious. We've been suffering with a little bit of anxiety over everything that's been going on. I mean,
But people have been trying to kill me. If people think I'm joking, or some people think I'm being, exaggerating, but I'm not. You've seen it. People tried to kill me.
I've seen it. I mean, they showed your front door. They showed my house. Our private residence has been shown over social media for all the world to see. And unfortunately, and it's true, there are nutters out there who will think, I'm going to do a good deed here, or I'm going to do whatever. And they may take the law into themselves and do whatever. And we've not got the law to support us.
No, we haven't.
We have not got Greater Manchester Police backing us in any way, shape or form. I have got Somerset. And I am dealing with them. And I'm actually in Medlock Vale as we speak, as I'm speaking to you now. But I'm going back to Somerset on Wednesday. But I'm here now. So if anybody wants to come and flash any more of my tyres, which I had done last week, and damage my car, they can crack on, because I'm here. And if they want to do that, crack on. But I'm going back to Somerset on Wednesday. And then when I do, I have appointments with the police force. I've got quite a few appointments, which I don't need to talk about now. But there's things in the pipeline that's going to happen. I will think about coming back. I will. But if a Shah gets in, I think that's it for me.
I think it's
I'll
a
be
shoe on.
honest with you.
I think it's a shoe on. I think she's going to get in there. I know she's. I know those phone calls are being made, and the gangsters are doing what the gangsters do best, and they're phoning and intimidating other Labour councillors.
Yeah. My thing tomorrow is, listen, I started off on this with my one question, right? And my one question on the 6th of November 2019 was about child sexual exploitation. So first thing tomorrow morning, I'm getting on to Andy Burnham's office, and I'm going to be pursuing that. I want this report out. I want to see this report. I want to see if we can take it further, because we all know that it's going to be in Jim, that man. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to be able to cover up about him not, protecting our children because of Lee Rigby. But I can't wait to see this shambles of a report, and then I'm going to be all over it. Because as far as I'm concerned, we still have children in Oldham who are being groomed as we speak. And do you know what? What keeps me going is on Friday morning after the election, because I was up all Friday night because I was at the count with Mark Birchall. I do have to admit, the funniest thing was when Cass Ball came walking in, and she threw her arms around the seat Rahman, and she's crying in the shoulder, oh, it shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't be happening. And as she was doing that, they put the results of Neil Hindle up on a big screen, and I'm really sorry, but as she's crying in his shoulder, I then started going, yeah, woo-hoo, woo-hoo, well done, Will, So it went down, that went down like a lead balloon, but I didn't care. But it was one of the funniest things. But we was up all night. I didn't get home till gone 7 o'clock Friday, and didn't sleep all Friday day.
We took out the head of the snake in Oldham. That's what we did.
Do you know what the Independents did in Oldham on Thursday night? We made history, and we, proud of Oldham and Saddleworth and Fails of Independence, and the Independents in Glodick, should be very pleased with that, because we made history on Thursday night, because we took out the leader of Oldham Council.
Debbie, thank you. I'm just got a couple of things left to do, which I want people to understand, and you'll enjoy this. I think you'll enjoy this. Okay, thank you. Thanks for calling me and allowing me to have something to eat and nibble on whilst you were.
Listen, Rajamir. I want you and all of us, all your rabble, wish you a wonderful Eid Mubarak.
Thank you.
Want you to have an absolutely have a rest.
My daughter phoned me today, and she FaceTimed me with a lovely pink dress she's bought. So I'm looking forward to seeing her and taking her to my mum's, or standing outside my mum's, or whatever the rules are.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can all start hugging each other from next week. So I'm sending you a hug now, and you and Evie are very welcome to come and stay in Somerset for a week's holiday. I live 45 minutes from a beach, and you're very welcome.
Thank you very, very much, Debbie. Thank you.
Eat lots to eat, Roger.
I will do. I've been eating lots anyway, but thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Love you lots, Roger.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Debbie Barrett Cole, Oldham, proud of Oldham and Saddleworth will continue. It seems. I know they met yesterday, but I was otherwise detained with a Lego set and a 6-year-old building castles. So that's what my yesterday was. Okay, some more serious stuff. I want to carry on with some serious stuff, if it's all right with you. In North Chadderton, Naz Islam convincingly became the Labour Party councillor. North Chadderton has now been lost to the cartels. The OBA expansion of North Chadderton, in plain sight, is now all but complete. There's a mosque or an Islamic centre. That was the former Carnegie Library. There's a wedding hall. What was the former Chadderton Baths. Further up Garthorpe Street is the mosque, which used to be a furniture shop. And the chairman of the mosque is also the Labour Party councillor. the new Labour Party councillor. And I think it's important I share with you how this expansion takes place. Politically, those who know Coldust will know the local Labour Party is suspended from being able to select its own candidate. And the reason the local branch is suspended is because the Labour Party headquarters themselves have evidence of dodgy behaviour, of infiltrating the ranks of the branch. So what happens is, when a councillor comes up, even if they're an elected councillor, people are allowed to stand against them to become the candidate, which is how Nazrul Islam got in. He stood against the existing candidate. Now, when you stand against the existing candidate, it's usually poor form, but it rarely happens. But when you stand against the existing candidate, all the members get to vote. And the reason the Coldust branch is suspended is because the Labour Party believe that many of the members, or the newer members, are fraudulent members. They've been either paid to become members, or someone else is paying their membership fees for them. Now I call on the Labour Party, and they won't do it, but you might as well know, the 100 or so of you watching here might as well know. I believe you will see a spike in memberships in the lead up to the selection of Nazrul Islam as the Labour Party candidate in Chadderton North. And I believe that some of those memberships were actually paid by existing councillors using other people as proxies, who in return voted accordingly and also got rewarded accordingly. Because that's how you get a cartel candidate into that position. Now, by now, it shouldn't surprise any of you that at his victory party, Arooj Shah, Shahid Mushtaq, Abdul Jabbar, and Sean Fielding were in attendance, and now he's a councillor. People of Oldham, North Chadderton has fallen to the cartel. The independent candidate, Tracy Woodward, got 970 odd votes. He got 970 odd last time. It's just not enough. These are dark times in our town. As victorious as it was in taking Sean Fielding, the cartels are doubling down on their power and expanding their reach. In Coldust, the heart of their empire, Abdul Jabbar retained his seat, yes, by 71 votes, but it was the biggest challenge he's ever had, and he still retained his seat. And as Debbie Barrett Cole shared, they have evidence of dodgy stuff that they've submitted. Nothing will happen, by the way. The police won't do anything. The police never do anything. It's a can of worms the police don't want to touch. A friend of mine had his vote stolen in North Chadderton. He turned up to vote and someone had already voted on his behalf. Typical cartel voter impersonation. How many hundreds of votes were stolen that way? They steal votes in 3 ways on election day when polling stations open. They go and vote pretending to be people who they know won't vote. They go and vote pretending to be people who will vote late. So when they turn up, they've already voted on their behalf. And they go and vote stealing the votes of their opponents to show how powerful they are and how above the law they are. Don't for 1 second think it was just one vote stolen. Hundreds of votes are stolen this way. All in the Asian areas, voter impersonation. And that's why the Labour Party and the Asian councillors all oppose ID cards. Because their ability to steal votes, hundreds of votes, thousands of votes, will end. And what did the council do? What did Julie Bruce and her mates do? They prevented a white young man from voting, or tried to prevent a white young man from voting, who stood up to him and videoed it all. And the police turned up to try and intimidate him instead of arresting the council officers that tried to stop a young man from legitimately exercising his right to vote. So even on voting day, the cartels flex their muscles and go out. And that's beside the standing outside of polling stations and intimidating candidates and having goons waiting there, which is what Debbie came across, a goon, a gangster goon. And this is a warning to my Tory friends. You are going down a very slippery road of backing alternative cartels to take out the cartels that you oppose. Instead of taking on all of these cartels, you're allowing cartels to infiltrate you. Lewis Quigg knows this. It's not a price worth paying, Lewis. Distance yourself from the cartels. Because if you get in bed with the cartels, you're betraying the town and its townsfolk, white and black and Asian alike. When I worked with councils and the BNP got some councillors in, there was a strategy for the officers. And I remember listening in on what the council officers were tasked to do. And they were tasked to completely disempower and sideline the BNP councillors. Now, forget the fact, it doesn't matter that the fact they were BNP councillors for me. It's the fact that they were democratically elected by the people. And the motive was that if we can disempower them so they feel worthless and useless, if we can tie them up in bureaucracy, we can treat them with contempt, then they will just fade away. And we can go back to normal because the people will see that there's no point in voting for these guys. And we can go back to the Labour Party councillors getting in. And that was a council strategy. Across the board, across the country. That's what councils did. And they won. Now, what will happen in Oldham, or what is already happening in Oldham, I suspect, is that the council will attempt to sideline Failsworth independents. And then tie them up with here's you can have $5,000 here or $6,000 here to fight for, whilst they're deciding what to do with 5 million or 6 million. And the young Conservatives will be whipped into shape and told to remain silent and develop their careers. And I know, as do the young Conservatives got in, Max Woodvine, Luke Lancaster and Beth Sharps, is that they got in on the back of representing their communities and doing some very hard work in their communities. And anything otherwise now would be a betrayal of the communities who invested their faith in them. So I think the best thing that could happen now for the Failsworth Independents and the Conservatives, because they in a line are in fact the opposition. Forget Howard Sykes and the Lib Dems. They're part and parcel of the problem in this town. The first council meeting, the first motion has got to be an independent inquiry into the corruption involving Labour Party politicians and council officers in this town in the style of Liverpool. Calling the government or to refer themselves to the police. And not Greater Manchester Police, because we know we can't trust them. But the Home Office have got to be called in for a root and branch review of corruption in Oldham Council. And I call on the Failsworth Independent Party and the Conservatives and any other independents who are brave enough to work together on a motion such as that right at the beginning, setting their stall out, that they do not fear Dr. Carolyn Wilkins and her team any more than they fear whoever becomes the leader of the Labour Party in Oldham. It has to be that. You have to stand up for a motion asking the council to review, to refer itself to the Home Office. And of course, simultaneously, these councillors need to stand up and demand the CSE, a report is provided on the CSE investigation. Not some crap like last time from whichever council officer wrote that, which was 2 lines and 3 pages of nonsense. Children have been groomed and gang raped and trafficked in this town, and those children have been failed by the council and its partners, and they're still being failed by the council and its partners. It's why so many people voted for you. Whether you're Conservative or Failsworth Independent or Independent, it's why so many people voted for you. It's because they did not have a good thing to say about the Labour-run administration and all the issues that we've been raising relentlessly for 2 years. And I plead with you, set off as you mean to go on, because these people are not your friends, and they will never be your friends. They'll try to manipulate you, exploit you, ridicule you, and undermine you. I want to see people like Amoy in the council. Unfortunately, in a town like ours, it's very difficult to get people to elect people like Amoy. She's too nice, she's too clean. She's too honest. She has too much integrity. But we have people there now with clean slates. Luke Lancaster, Mark Sudvine. Sorry, I don't know the other Tory from Royton, but you've done really well. Beth. And I'm sorry, Lewis, I wanted you to win. I know you came up just short. I think it was 100 or 200 votes. But I think you've done a lot of good work in the shadows, in the background. Lewis Quigg. Rob, I've said. Robert, I'm a fan of. From South Chadderton. I hope he stands again. I hope he takes out Arucha. That's not the point, is it though, James? It's that they get voted down. So it shows they mean business. They're not scared. And then if the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats want to vote them down, it also sends a message to the people of the town. Just because you're going to lose doesn't mean you don't speak out against injustice. Just because you know you're going to get a smack in the face doesn't mean you don't try and stop an old woman from being mugged. This town remains, actually this town is even more so now on a cliff edge. And how we collectively respond, now we have voices in the town hall. Now we have advocates in the town hall and advocates in our communities. this community, this town, has a fighting chance. And when people went and knocked on the doors, and remember we only had a 30-something% turnout, 2 out of 3 people in most places didn't vote. The reason they don't vote is because they think it won't make any difference whatsoever. So now we've finally got some councillors in there. We urge you to be the difference. Represent the town. Inspire the town. Defend the townsfolk. But no. We have to fight. We have to fight, and we have to keep on fighting. My name is Raj Amir. This is the Recusant 9 transmissions. We've been going for 2 years in some form or another, relentlessly, pretty much every day. I am close to exhausted. Please, if you haven't subscribed or if you haven't liked, subscribe to the channel, like the channel. If you can buy me a coffee and keep me going in coffees, I'd love to carry on this. But I'm at the point where, yeah, please. Massive victory for us. This isn't anything other than knowing that even with this victory, the fight is only just beginning. They will come for us harder, stronger than ever before. Because now they know we are more than just rabble. We held our own and we took out their leader. They will never forgive us for that. They will double down on the claims that we're far right and racist. They will do their best to harass and intimidate us. They will be looking at every one of you who comments down this side and finding out who you are and where you live and where you might work. The Gestapo is out. The cartels are out. No, our fight is only just starting. It is a victory. Celebrate the victory. Draw strength from that, because there will be darker days ahead. And when those dark days come, remember this moment. We beat them. The motto remains the same. Do not fear them.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.